I was diagnosed with scoliosis when I was about 11 years old. A lot of people have heard of scoliosis, or maybe they know a family member or a friend that has it. Well, as the leading cause of spinal deformities amongst school-aged children in the United States, scoliosis is a lot more common than most people think. At first, I thought I was just growing really fast. My posture wasn't good, and I started to notice my clothes didn't fit the same way. It seemed like one of my shoulders was higher than the other. At first, I just wanted to hide that. I was tall. My trunk was long too, along with my arms and legs. Well, to say I was long-limbed, that would actually be an understatement. I started to walk differently to try and hide the asymmetry to my body. I wore a lot of black clothes, and I practiced in front of the mirror how best to walk to hide my change in gait and posture. The more crooked I became, the harder I worked to hide it. I can't explain why I didn't just open up about it when I was noticing it, but, well, I didn't want to be different. I wanted to blend in. I wanted to be like the rest of my friends. The last thing I wanted was to look, feel, or be different from everybody around me. But that's what was happening. As it turned out, my long neck had caused some problems to my growing spine. The upper portion of my spinal cord that led into my neck was abnormally long, and it was causing a cervical curvature to develop at the top of my spine. I managed to hide my condition for quite some time, but when we went on a family vacation to a beach and it was time to swim, my mom wanted to know why I felt the need to wear a t-shirt. Well, to get her off my back, I took it off, and I just prayed that it wasn't as bad as I thought and nobody would notice. My mom, of course, noticed instantly. She had me bend forward at a 90-degree angle and said that she could see a huge curvature in my upper spine. So we cut the trip short and we flew home to see a scoliosis specialist. I was diagnosed with mild scoliosis, and I was told that scoliosis-specific chiropractic care would be my best option. A lot of people were recommending spinal fusion surgery for me, but my specialist favored a less invasive, permanent chiropractic approach. He recommended I start treatment right away. I learned that scoliosis is a progressive condition with no known cure. My doctor said the best approach was to manage the condition's progression and that I could live a perfectly normal life with a little work and dedication. What I didn't get at the time was how much hard work it was going to be. Because I had hid my condition for so long, it was allowed to get worse as it was unimpeded. Well, that meant starting treatment later than I should have. The chiropractic adjustments, they weren't necessarily painful, but they were exhausting. The treatment had to be augmented by at-home practices like specific stretches and exercises to build up the muscles that supported my spine. The more I worked out, the stronger I got, and the better my back and neck felt. I could feel my back getting stronger, and as I went through my treatment, my back slowly got straighter. My specialist reminded me that my condition would never be cured, but that it could be controlled and managed. My x-rays showed that my curvature had been reduced by 5 degrees, which was a really good start. The goal was to get my curvature back to the point it was before my last growth spurt. Growth was the biggest cause of the progression, which is why 80% of people with the condition are adolescents, going through growth spurts that characterize puberty. I was able to keep up with my sports, and swimming was actually a great pain relief for me. Low-impact exercise, that's where it was at. It kept me healthy, kept me flexible, and it kept me in a good mood. It was hard sometimes not to get depressed. Even though my curvature was straighter, I was still asymmetrical. One shoulder sitting higher than the other, a rib arch on one side, my clothes still didn't fit right. So I was improving, but I was still different. No doubt about it. That's something I still didn't want. The more I was growing, the harder I had to work to counteract the effect that the growth had on my progression. The x-rays taken by my doctor, they could tell how big my curvature was, how much I'd grown, and how much it looked like I had yet to grow, and that allowed us to try and even stay ahead of the progression. My doctor reminded me that once I was through adolescence and no longer growing, the progression of my condition would likely slow significantly. He told me that there was a long road ahead of us, but there was hope at the end of the tunnel. After 3 years of working together, my doctor decided to include my experience in a book that he was writing. His book was all about demystifying scoliosis, and there was a lot of misinformation out there about it. He thought my case was a perfect example of what could be accomplished through hard work and determination. And, well, he was right. As I got older, I had to work less to keep my spine straighter. It seemed that my slowing growth was slowing down the progression as well. I could finally slow down. I found I had to keep really active to keep my flexibility and range of motion, though. Stretching was a great relief. The muscles naturally tightened to compensate for an abnormal spine curvature, and that was the cause of most of the pain and discomfort. So the more I stretched, the looser the muscles around my spine got and the more comfortable I felt. When I turned 18, my doctor approached me about talking to some groups of adolescents who were also diagnosed with scoliosis. Movies like The Hunchback of Notre Dame, they'd given scoliosis and spinal deformities quite the negative stigma. I remember what it was like to discover my body changing in a different way. I remember the shame I felt, how hard I worked, how good I got at hiding it. Even with 2 great and supportive parents, I still hid my condition, and that had cost me dearly. It meant my condition was much more advanced by the time I finally started treatment. Had I started treatment earlier, I wouldn't have had to work so hard and painfully to reduce that curvature. My parents had a lot of guilt about it, too. They felt bad that they didn't notice my spine earlier. My neck had always been long, but none of us knew that it would end up causing the problems it did for the rest of my spine. So I agreed to do those talks with the adolescents right away. I'd always wondered what the point of everything was, why I had developed this condition in the first place, and what, if any, good could possibly come from it. This was my answer. If I could help other scared and confused young people face their condition head-on rather than hiding from it, I could help them benefit from an early diagnosis and treatment. The earlier treatment starts, the more favorable the results can be. I talked to kids and their parents about signs to look for, early screening practices, and how the condition could affect emotional and mental health. So now, when I think about my long neck, I don't really think of it as a curse anymore. I think of it as what I was meant to do, my whole experience living with scoliosis, doing talks to educate young people, learning to live my best life with a spinal deformity. It actually led me to my ultimate career as a scoliosis-specific chiropractor. I decided I wanted to dedicate the rest of my life to helping people with this condition. I wanted to research alternative forms of treatment other than the spinal fusion surgery that multiple traditional doctors tried to push on me. Spinal fusion was still the main form of treatment for scoliosis once it progressed to a certain point, and I wanted to be a part of the shift from invasive surgery to non-invasive chiropractic forms of treatment. My research and personal experience, it led me to believe that surgery was not the best choice all the time, and I felt sorry for scared kids and their parents who were pushed into a surgery that had a lot of risks and wasn't actually necessary. One blog post at a time, one patient at a time, one podcast at a time, I spread the word for alternative forms of scoliosis treatment. When I was 27, I teamed up with 3 other doctors looking to accomplish the same thing. We ended up founding one of the first nonprofit scoliosis-specific chiropractic practices in the States, and it's become my life's greatest accomplishment. I took what I was given, an abnormal spinal deformity I would have to live with my entire life, and I didn't let it defeat me. I used it to inspire me and make me stronger. To watch more animated story videos like this, hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments section what you thought about this story.